Hi guys, I am not sure if you can hear me. I don't know if anyone's actually on here yet. Seems not. Alright. I am going to quickly just see if I can change my scenes here. Let's go there. Great. Okay, so I think I will wait a second or two until maybe some more people rock up. If someone rocks up, otherwise we record this and we load it onto YouTube, and then people can watch it later. I believe it will be quite educational. For me, definitely. For you, probably. Yeah, so I will quickly just go back onto a blank screen and see if some more people rock up and do some more preparations in the background. Hi there, I see I have one viewer, and yeah, I'm busy setting up quickly. What I have done is I have prepared the same, new app. I copied it somewhere else, the one I generated in my previous stream. It's got some existing code in there to run a motor backward and forward. And since we are continuing on this project, I thought we start on that. And then what we will do is we will adapt that to include all the newer code. And at the moment I'm busy trying to get connected to the board. I've got a serial connection open. The preparations took a bit longer than I anticipated, so let me share that with you, and you could maybe see what I'm busy with. So I use the serial port to find the IP address of the grist board after it had booted and connected to the Wi-Fi. What I need to do now that I think I disconnected now. Let's see and hope. See if and hope that our IP address remains static, because it is a bit of a pain otherwise. Not static, but that it's got some sticky IP address. Alright, so what I'm going to do quickly in the background is update my hosts file that I don't think you should necessarily see. Okay, almost there. Sorry, I've gone quiet. I have to quickly make sure that I do this correctly, otherwise we are going to have quite a bit of difficulty. This is a bit awkward, but I can't remember the exact path to my hosts file. Alright, there I have it, finally. And now let's quickly insert. I've not worked on much crisp things all week, so I've been busy with, let's call it my day job all week, and that is preoccupying my mind a bit. I'm sure most people can relate, but I will hopefully quickly get back into the swing of things. Okay, host file is updated. Let's keep that open for now and make sure that our IP address didn't actually change, otherwise probably need to change it again. Okay. The other thing I did was to update my Crisp project to contain my current IP address for my host PC. That's probably a bit more important at this very moment, because the one that I actually just did, that we can do even after we've deployed. You guys have probably been through this a few times, so I'm not going to over-explain. But I just took the memory card out of the rover, stuck it in my card reader, and I am going to go back to the terminal and deploy said updated version with the new IP address. I've got these pre and post scripts hooked up, like I'm sure some people have explained before. It's all in the docs as well. Makes the whole deploy process quite a bit less annoying, less slow, less menial. And now I stuck it back into the device, and we shall be starting it quickly up again. No man, still on the serial terminal. Then we are going to run an inet command on the board. Once it has started up and connected, just to make sure that our IP address is still what we want it to be. While that's starting up, I'm going to open my Vim, with my host file again. If anyone cannot hear me, please indicate. I've got a second screen today, so hopefully I can keep better track of comments and of advice and of general interest in things. I'm just going to quickly go back to my browser and see who's on, or I don't think I can see identities, but I see there's 2 viewers, so yeah, we shall be going full steam ahead. Alright, there we have the board booted, running the inet address command, and no, we are not. We do not have the same IP address. It's okay, let's try change it. I really hope this actually works in the long run, because looking at the IP addresses, we may be swapping subnets, and I'm not sure how all of these things all fit together, but we may struggle to connect. Okay. We have now our host file, updated host file with a new IP address, and I guess the next step is to try and actually connect to the board. Right. I'm a bit of a copy paster because I do not enjoy memorizing all kinds of things unnecessarily. While I do know the commands, I do also prefer to try and avoid any errors in typos, all of that sorts of things. So yeah, in general, copy paste for the win. Now we're opening a remote shell. We give it a name. I think my remote shell is fine. We need to get our project name in here. Rover, I believe. Roverbot. Yeah. Let's see. So this isn't as much of a copy paste in the end. Just make sure my grist board is correct. Actually, yes, I think it is. Okay. So Erlang will be quick to tell us if it's not. And that is what Erlang is telling us. Okay. what? But I'm just quickly checking through my deploy commands. Everywhere that we're supposed to have a name, a project name and stuff in, I'm just making sure they're all rover, but not still robot or something from the bootstrapped code. Seems fine. Cookie is my cookie, like we sort of just default to for the sake of not introducing any variables. Obviously, when one has something in production, you probably won't make your cookie my cookie, because it's a pretty bad idea. Alright, this doesn't seem to be working, so I will go and do probably an alternative method. What we've seen before, which we are not quite sure why, is that this sometimes doesn't work, but the moment you have connected via a remote node rather than a remote shell, you actually after that manage to get in using the remote shell. So I'm not sure if it's if EPMD on the machine doesn't actually effectively ping the board, and the other command does, but yeah, somewhere we don't know about the board, and then once having opened a remote node, we do suddenly manage to reach the board. So okay, I'm just quickly checking all these commands. Right, let's try this one. So we're opening a node locally. Once we have opened the node locally, let us try and ping our board. Bang. Oh, come on, man. Huh. It's interesting. The board seems to the board actually seems to have a connection attempt. Alright, no, it's not working. I wonder. No, probably not that. No. Okay, well, two methods fail, try a third. Although this is roughly the same thing, so I don't expect we have more luck with that. If someone is online who actually knows what I'm doing wrong, a tip will be great. That doesn't work. Let's try complete local Erlang node. Otherwise we're probably gonna have to go double check all the IP addresses and this must be a robot. It is robot. Okay, ping. We need a ping here, otherwise we've got a bit of a dead end on our hands. We can go on the shell, the local shell, serial terminal, but that does cause us a little bit of problems since it's harder to iterate on it. Let me quickly try and see if my IP address gets picked up correctly by the board. Alright, my name is correct here, as I have connected from this computer before, so the name is fine. IP address. Let's double check the IP address. This is what's a bit annoying if you are on someone else's router. And you don't have so much control over your IP addresses and these sorts of things, because it might actually be swapping around. IP address seems fine. Alright, well, let's move on. I'll see what I can do via the terminal. Unfortunately, I wanted to show you some neat tricks here that we learned in Berlin. I guess with we, I mean I, because Adam was there with me, and Adam gave me and the other attendees some really interesting tips on how to remote load code, how to net load, how to hot reload your code to a device. You know, you don't have to actually switch the grist board off. Let me start out by actually showing you the robot and my new setup that I've got today. Oh, come on, man, so nothing seems to want to work today. Okay, let me show you what I'm doing. So I've got this little camera that I did not have last week. What? Oh, yeah. I've got this little camera. This is something my brother bought me that's been pretty useful at times. Let me see. Okay, switch it to PC cam mode. I've switched it on. So the last time I was sitting around here waving the robot in the air, that wasn't particularly effective. This time I've got a little handheld camera. So this is the robot. This is the rover bot from Server City. It's called a junior runt rover. Those are the PMod HB5s on top. This is a sonar sensor that isn't hooked up at the moment yet. There's the grist board underneath. You see a little light shining. Here we get access to the SD card. And somewhere in there you can see some Varta battery sticking out. So that is connected to the PMODs. The PMODs are connected on the output lines to these motors, and the PMODs up here are connected basically as if they were plugged in. It was just more convenient to have it at the top here, get some access to them. We had to solder some wires under the PMODs to get the motors connected, because our connectors were incompatible. Yeah, so all of the ports that's connected, which are 4, it's SPI 1, GPIO 1, GPIO 2, and UART. They are all set to, or going to be set to, a GPIO mode, like we practiced last time. But yeah, we've wasted quite a bit of time now struggling with these things that don't work, so let's continue. I will go firstly and quickly check who's online. I don't see any messages coming in. There's 4 viewers. Alright, viewers, if you know what I'm doing wrong, please do not hesitate to tell me. Alright, so what we did last time, to recap, what we did last time was we made some high-level commands that we could call. Maybe we should actually quickly do that. And these would drive a motor. We had 2 motors at the time. Now we have 4 motors. We have more devices hooked up. But I will quickly just make a call. We probably want to see one of the motors turning. Alright, Erlang syntax, not Elixir syntax. So there you go, with a dot at the end. Paste in terminal. See what happens. Come on. There you go. Syntax. What? Ah. Cool. It seems to be set. Let's turn clockwise. So what we're doing today is we're taking similar commands to these. We've been through them before. There you go. We've been through them before, so it's, I guess, nothing new. I just actually want to quickly check that I didn't make any mistakes hooking up the wires, because I've actually flown around with this device, disassembled it, reassembled it, flown back again, disassembled, reassembled, and you know, sometimes something can go wrong. Alright, it works. So yeah, today we want to take a bunch of these types of commands and we want to shove it into a supervisor that can basically maintain a bit of state for us, remember what state the motors are in, switch the motors for us. You'd remember last time I said that you should never change the direction of the motor while it's running, because that can cause a short circuit internally on the HP5, on the H-bridge driver. So yeah, what the supervisor will do is it will run a long-standing process, something that exposes a few high-level commands like forward, backward, turn, whatever. It could, you know, in future robot versions be a much bigger set of commands or much richer set, including pulse width modulation, you know, speed settings, stuff like that. So what we will, yeah, those abstracted commands is kind of what we're interested in. And when we do a remote connection to a board, we need to be able to send, well, we will make a we normally would if it worked. We would set up a remote node, connect to our board, and send OTP messages to it, and the messages would be addressed to the process ID of this long-standing process that does this abstraction for us. And that module, that Gen server, will then receive our messages, interpret it as a command to be run on the board, and actually run the command for us. So we don't run a command ourselves, we send a message instructing the robot to do something. Alright, enough about that. So, quick recap again, there's a direction pin and a on and off pin essentially, and not much more to it than that. You use GPIO modes to set those pins on and off, to determine direction and so on. So let's get today to the coding. Okay. Sorry, I want to quickly get to my notes here. I did make some. Alright. Maybe later, if we manage to get all this going, then we can still issue our remote procedure calls. Alright, so we are going to make a module called car. That's going to be called car Erlang. It's going to expose as I said, it's going to expose externally a few calls, and it's going to be able to receive messages. So let's start with that. New file car.erlang. Right. And then that needs to be a Gen server. Right, firstly it's a module called car. Right, looks pretty, nice coloring. Then we need to implement the behavior called Gen server. Okay, let's start with our Gen server. The functions required for a Gen server. There's quite a lot of code we need to type in here, so I think I'm gonna not type them all. What I'm going to do is copy paste some stuff and explain to you what's happening there. So a Gen server needs a start link, as the Erlang programmers who are watching will know, and the non-Erlang programmers will not know, so this is new obviously. We give it an init function, and we are giving it all the message handling functions. Handle call, handle cast, which is basically synchronous, asynchronous, and then handle info, which is yeah, that's a different type of message. It's basically, I believe, a message that doesn't actually require a response. When the remote node doesn't require a response, you send a info message. It's just basically for the information of the Gen server, whereas handle cast and handle call generally, I believe, can actually respond to the remote messages. I may be wrong there. Let me make sure. No, let's not make sure, don't worry. Alright. So the start link, that basically names our process it returns to the supervisor a basically instructions on how to start it up. The supervisor then calls the init function if you don't actually provide it. If you don't, yeah, you might. Too many details. Alright, so the init function configures our GPIO 1 and 2 to be a output. It both the pins, both 1 and 2, which is both the direction and the enable pin. The UART pins, the same thing. Number 1 would be the direction pin, number 2 would be the enable pin, and then our SPI 1. There's also some settings there. I'm gonna change that because I've actually got the device hooked up to pin 7 and pin 8 rather than pin 10 and pin 9. Let me make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, that's actually correct. Alright. If it doesn't work later, we'll know. We'll see. Alright. So between start link and init, it basically receives the initiation request from our supervisor, and it responds to the supervisor with its own with its name basically, and then it can be registered on the supervision tree as a named process in the registry. That means you can actually go look it up, which is not always the case for all processes. Many processes are not registered or not named, and getting a handle on a process like that is often quite a mission. So let me see what else we can do. What we should do is, let's start with the functions. We've got our start link. Let's start with, we need a forward, backward, left and right function. Left and right will be implemented by driving the different motors. So left, let's say, drives forward, and back drives backward, and this will turn you to the right. In the reverse of that, you will turn to the left. Really simple, I think. Forward is obviously both left and right hand motors turn forward, and backward is both left and right hand turn backward. So that's not rocket science, I suppose. You will see on your screens that I have quickly added the functions. So how these functions work is, if you call car.forward, car.stop, car.backward, car.left, whatever, you give it a PID. That is the process identifier of this gen server itself. This when I got into Erlang and Elixir was a bit confusing to me, because in many other programming languages, a instance of a module, essentially you can just call the module and it calls itself, whereas here it's all functional. So these functions inside a module is basically just a function that can be called, but it doesn't have a state. It doesn't really exist anywhere. It only gets pulled into memory when you are calling it, and you need to tell it which process needs to execute that command, essentially. So what you do is you receive the PID, and then you do a cast, which is sending a message to that PID. This message is basically of type cast. It will be received as cast, and the handle cast function will basically receive that message and execute something. So with that in mind, I need to show you what the handle casts would look like. Okay, I forgot one thing that was related to the init and the start link functions. So this gen server needs to be able to handle all kinds of messages. Some of them is the messages we send to it, and you know, we're in control of. Some of the messages is sort of random other messages. What these handle calls at the top does is basically, okay, so handle call 1 current, that's basically, it receives a message when we want to know what the Erlang, what the gen server's name is. We would like to be able to tell external parties what our name is if it asks us, and that's basically what the handle call here at current does. It sends a reply to whoever sent the message that sent state, and what state is going to be, because it's reset it up that way, is our PID, our process identifier. The one below it, that catches a bunch of other messages that comes from, well, various sources, and if we don't handle them, our gen server breaks. So some of it is like on startup, like the process gets notified that it's successfully started, and all sorts of things like that. And so we're handling that there. And now back to the cast functions. Alright, let's start with 1, then I can tell you what that's all about. So the handle cast, that catches our message that I said, our cast message. The atom backward tells the cast what we want it to do, and then, well, yeah, the gen server then calls the stop, set, and go functions. So what stop does is it sets all these pins to all the enable pins. It shuts off so that our motors stop. The set forward sets the directions for all motors, and then the go switches the motors back on again. As you can see, the response is no reply backwards, so we are choosing not to send a response to whoever made the call. So the forward and left and right handle casts is basically the same, except, you know, the directions are a bit different. In backward we obviously set the direction to backward, but in forward we set the direction to forward. This is interesting. I see forward and backward is swapped around here. We'll play around with the robot later and investigate. I suspect what happens was there were wires crossed, or the wrong initial state was given. This is some code we sort of have left over from terminals and from people's notes and stuff from the Berlin workshop. So it probably happened there was that we had the initial configuration set up wrong, and it was easier to just flip the forward and backward commands around than it was to go and change all the pin namings. Alright. So where does that leave us? We've got backward, forward, left and right. Gen server handlers. Alright. some more implementation logic. So gen servers can't live reload their code basically if you don't sort of tell it how, because it's a stateful process. Obviously you hold some state, and due to holding some state, you may, in some cases, like this all depends on what software you're writing, what it's supposed to do, what state are you holding, what are you holding it for. But in general, there could be times that you need to actually change some state based on the new code. So you would implement code change functions that handles these code changes. So when my Erlang software is actually busy running and I want to live load new code, what's going to happen is Erlang is going to call these code change functions to update my state and then basically start using the new code that for this gen server or for the module in question. Alright, so what we do in this code change is we basically do nothing. Because we don't keep any interesting state, we basically just keep our own PID, a process identifier, if I remember correctly. So there's nothing really to do, but we do need to handle the call, otherwise we wouldn't be able to live reload our code. And the live reloading is a very useful feature when you're iterating on robotics and things that have somewhat long deployment times and stuff. Okay, so we are calling now functions stop, set right, go, set left, all of those things, but we have not actually implemented them. So next up, I guess, would be the implementation. I've explained a whole bunch of the theory to you already, so I'll try not once again to over-explain. But this really very much builds on our work from last week. Well, not last week, last month actually, but the previous robot exercise. My OCD is kicking in terms of the indentation here. That's all weird, so I was quickly updating that. I suppose I've probably got a plugin that could handle that, but whatever. So as I said, it builds on the previous work, and what the previous work did is we set and cleared and set and whatever the relevant pins, and nothing is new in that case here. We are, when we say go, we are activating the enable pin for all our motors. When we say stop, we clear our enable pin for all our motors. When we say forward, yeah, see, this is odd. This is what was happening. There's a clear and a set and a clear and a set. So GPIO 2 and 1 is being cleared in the forward function, and the other two pmod ports, we have that in reverse. As I said, this is our sort of legacy codes. We'll quickly see what we can do about that, because that doesn't make much sense to me. Okay, so what happens is, alright, we've set it to the wrong type, that direction pin. I don't know if you guys are following me, but when we did the configuration in the init function, we set all these things to different types of output, and it seems we set it to the wrong type of output. Let me quickly think about this. There may be a reason for it. Yeah, you know what? There is a reason. We've got a left and a right hand motor, like motors on the left hand side of the robot and motors on the right hand side of the robot, and they sort of cross over. And basically, to go forward, because they're on different sides of the robot, and the mounting of the robot, the mounting of the motor is different. It differs between the robot, the motors. Not all motors are mounted in such a way that if you activate it with a forward command, that will actually turn in what we perceive the forward direction to be. It will actually turn backwards. So what we're doing is we're setting some of them to basically have backward as the default direction, and some of them were set to forward being the default direction. But that is in the motor's sort of frame of reference. And we are more interested in the full robot frame of reference with the motor's mounting directions taken into account. Yeah, so that is the reason for that. And that is also then why we don't need to change these forward and backward commands, because it is correct that some of them are cleared and some of them are set. As you see with the stop and go, that's not the case. Set and clear means a fixed thing. You switch the enable pin off and you switch it on. I'm going to swap forward and backward the functions around so that we can, in our public function, so there's all the private functions that will be called by the gen server itself. And these casts, they are message handlers, and the stop, forward and backward sort of high level commands. Those are the ones that we will expose to the outside world. Okay, so what I wanted to do was I want to switch forward, set, left set, forward, set, backward. I wanted to switch that around because we have not changed the implementation to be able to support that. So now, if you get a forward command, you set forward, and if you get a backward command, you set backward. So we can avoid some sort of unnecessary confusion there. Good. Now we need to, okay, what have we done? We have done the init command, startling command. We have done forward, backward, left and right message handlers, as well as implementing high-level functions that takes our process identifier and sends our message, sends the message basically to itself, to the standing process to execute the code, which is the private functions, which is stop, go, forward, backward, left and right. Okay. Now we need to actually export some of these functions to make them public. So luckily we have that as code already, because we did this at a workshop. You'll see at the very top there I pasted the export commands. We're exporting start link, we're exporting forward, backward, left, right, stop and get directions, as well as our handle call, handle cast, handle info and code change commands. This means that all of those will now be able to be called from the external modules. Well, modules that from code that is not inside this module, basically. Okay. We do not have. Oh, we have messages. Okay. Someone was late. Okay. No problem. I'm also, I guess, running a bit late and a bit slow, so I might actually do a few extra minutes. I always like to end off somewhere, somewhere useful, somewhere interesting. I don't want to leave you with just half-written code and then we get going. Okay. I think we're basically done with our car module. Yeah, looks good. Now I'm gonna quickly check my notes on what else we had done, because we have some stuff outstanding. We need to update our supervisor. We have this very primitive supervisor from the bootstrapped code that basically does nothing, and that supervisor module exposes some of our high-level functions we wrote last time. That's basically now not what we're interested in anymore, so we need to clean that up. And yeah, then we need to start our supervisor, and we need to start our gen server inside our supervisor. So I'm gonna go back to my notes here and there. As I said, copy and pasting is a way to avoid errors when you have partially done things before. So yeah, we are going to create a supervisor module which implements a supervisor behavior. That's strictly not necessary. We could, from our application, I think, start all of this stuff up sort of in our main module. But seeing as this project may become a bit more than it is, we would like to have a separate supervisor. Yeah, so what you can then do is you can have different supervision trees. You can have this supervision tree with various things nested under it, various children, or we can have a bunch of supervision trees. Yeah, so there's many things you can do, but all in all, we want this. We want a supervisor specifically for the car at the moment. Okay, so we've got our car module. Now we want a supervisor module. Oh, never mind. I see we actually had a supervisor already. We actually outdid ourselves last week. Well, last month. Alright, what do we have here? Start link, configure. Okay, these were our lazy. This was our lazy code. So let's drop that. Let's drop that. It's not sufficient to run our whole robot. Let's clear example code. Yeah, just a good general cleanup. Cool. Now we are cleaned up, and now we need to get our new code in there. So let's first start with our start link and our init functions. I quickly make sure we are implementing supervisor behavior. Yes. We've got a name for the module, which is rover bot supervisor. Sure, that's fine. We're exporting start link. We're exporting init. Okay, cool. So we basically just need to implement those behaviors. I'm not sure if this actually changed from last week. Local. Check. Sorry. Yeah, so that doesn't really change. Start links. It doesn't have to be a very generic function. You could include in it all kinds of things, states and stuff. Options that you send to whatever you're starting up to start up with. There's a whole bunch of things you can do in there, but yeah, you also can just keep it simple, keep it generic. You can do a bunch of the stuff you do in init in StartLink as well. Often you want to sort of decide where you want failures to happen, when you want it to happen, stuff like that. I generally, it's a case-to-case thing, but I generally like to put a lot of this in the init function, a lot of the startup logic. Alright, so what are we doing? Our init function is receiving what is sent to it, and what is sent to it is this last argument in the start link, if I'm not mistaken. What we are then doing is we are responding. Wait, do I have this the wrong way around now? The init function is called by the supervisor, whereas the supervisor then uses what is responded to, what it receives from the init function to actually call startLink. So it won't always be startLink. It could be other functions, and the other function could call startLink. But so in this case, what we are telling it is oh man, okay. I sometimes find Erlang still a bit confusing. It's not very different to Elixir, but the syntax and stuff all makes me a bit confused because the syntax is different. Alright, so we are responding with a tuple that says okay. It contains basically the ID of the process that needs to be started, which is going to be car. It contains instructions on how to start it. And it's gonna start it by calling car. In the car module, it's gonna call startLink. Okay, cool. I'm back to my first theory. You call startLink. StartLink sort of starts up the process, I think, sends a PID. Anyway, wait, let me shut up before I embarrass myself further. Long story short, we respond with a whole bunch of instructions on how to start the car module in the init function. So as I said, the car, because we give it an ID, we're going to have a registered process with a name ID. The ID that's going to be car. But this doesn't actually register the name. This sets state. Yeah, okay, now I remember. Right. So we are basically also setting the state in a way that we know. Never mind. Let's get back to coding. My brain's tired. Alright. Lastly, long story short, we've got a supervisor, we've got an app. The app's going to start a supervisor. The supervisor is going to start the car module, which is a gen server. So the gen server is going to start up. It's going to have a process ID, so it's a long starting thing. It holds state. It's going to get the name car, so that we can look it up. So it's registered, so we can use the name to look up the PID. And that is where this get car functions comes in. Maybe I actually increase that a bit. Never thought about the fact that you guys might not really be able to see what's going on here. Cool. We use Erlang whereis, which to actually recall the PID for us. That can be used in various ways. We'll probably use it just now to get a handle on our ID. But yeah, so the rover bot supervisor is exposing a getCar function for us. This getCar function, it's basically the supervisor is a good way to house this function, because the supervisor knows the name it gives the process. And the name it gives the process is car. And so it can use that name to get us this handle on the car what do you call that thing, gen server. Alright, so here we go. We have some outstanding stuff here. We still need to export the getCar function, otherwise it won't be accessible from the outside. How are we going to do that? Is add it to the export, and it's got a parity of 0 because it doesn't take any arguments. Alright, that is our supervisor with startup instructions for car and with ID for car, so that we have a registered process. Okay. What is next? Next we need to actually put this into our application module so that our application module knows what to do. Let's see, what does our application module already do? No, it's not our application module. Wait, what? There. That is our application module, because it implements the application behavior. Alright. Now what that does is it exports start and stop functions. The stop basically does nothing, and the start starts our robot supervisor. Okay, seems simple enough. Yeah, so I think that's sufficient. Let's see. Okay, supervisor. No, I think the last thing. No, this is fine. Okay. Yeah, so robot start link robot underscore bot underscore supervisor. This is our supervisor module. Start link. That'll basically call our supervisor module, which it'll start itself up using the init function. Alright, and then yeah, this is sufficient. Yeah, okay, so that process does all the starting up. Nested under it is it's starting its children up, and the children basically in this case is just car, and it then returns that init function, then returns a OK tuple if it started itself up correctly. That OK tuple is received here, and which means this function essentially returns whatever the other function returns, which is fine. Okay, I am tempted to say we've got happiness. This of course until when, not if, but when we find the mistakes. Let's actually as quickly before we start this whole deployment business say rebar 3. We're going to terminal magic now, so let's switch over. It's a rebar 3 compile and see what happens. No. Erlang, what? Hate mismatch. Alright, so there were errors. I will quickly investigate what are we doing wrong. Okay, this is a warning. How do we know what's happening here? State is unused, go is unused. How's go unused? We're calling it. We're calling it. Okay, it says goes unused, but go is being called. Okay, what else does it say? Go stop for, yeah, basically all of these things it claims is not used. Which means it doesn't think something's calling it. And then we've got function get direction undefined. Somewhere we're exporting functions, I think. Okay. Let's bring these errors because I keep having to bring back and forward. Okay. So hate mismatch, get direction. Yeah, that's not actually implemented. Okay. Handle cast undefined, so that might not be exported, but it is exported. Handle info. It's also what? Inexperienced Erlangers, does this semicolon belong here? Okay, that's the one thing, and the other thing is get direction. So let's see, get direction. That really needs to go out. Guess it could be useful in the future, but we don't want it to be now. Get direction. Alright. Let's see what happens after that, maybe. I doubt it. Maybe that caused some problems for us. Oh, fuck, where did I change that? Get out, go away. I don't like you. Okay. Sure guys, it's getting late. If someone wants to drop off, you're welcome to. I am going to continue for a little bit longer. At least until I know whether or not this code actually deploys and whether or not the motors actually run. Okay, we'll comment that out as well. do think this might be an issue. No, wait. Come on, guys. My Erlang knowledge is starting to let me down. So it is defined, but I think it's not. Why would that be? Handle call is defined. Handle cast is not defined, except it is there. I think we need to change some things here. We've got a whole bunch of handle casts, that's fine. But I think what we need to do is we need to drop a dot here. I'm not doing this out of any strict knowledge on Erlang. I just suspect this is instinctive. But we've got all these handle casts chained behind each other, which I think that's what these semicolons are for. It's basically to associate all these functions with each other, so that the compiler basically knows what to do with them. Once again, I may be wrong, but let's see what happens. Yeah, so we've got all these different clauses that needs to match. Well, that determines different cases in which they get matched upon and what code's going to execute. Yeah, I think that looks good. If all goes well, we've got one less warning, if that was what was the issue. Aha! That was what was the issue. Alright. Really weird messages it gives you here. And now it's saying complaining something about state being unused at 55. Probably not a good idea to have things unused. You know. Right. Compile, no issues. Wonderful. Right. Yeah, we're on the serial terminal, so for now we're not gonna worry about silly little details like IP addresses. What I am going to do is I am pulling quickly the microSD card out, throwing it. Oh, you guys didn't even see my terminal. All the drama. Right. There's the drama. Let's plug the memory card reader in there. Let's run up to our deploy command somewhere here. That looks like the correct one. Okay. And we deploy. And hopefully this thing tells us it's happy. It is indeed happy. Wonderful. Everyone's happy when their machine's happy. Okay. Let's go back into the device and let us plug this guy in and let us open the serial terminal. No, not like that. You guys missed that, but I was trying to type in the recording window that you guys can see. Alright. No. What is this? What is this? Okay. For a second there I thought we had some errors. Okay. The anticipation is seriously killing me. What is going on? Is there actually make sure we've got the correct USB device. USB 1, yes, that's fine. Alright. Aha! No, man. What is your story? Restart. So, yeah, it's not happy with something. Let me see if I can see a crash log or something on the USB device, on the memory card. There might be some roverbot. Sorry, I sort of talking to myself, but we had different names for our modules and stuff in our tutorial, and in some of my copy pastes I may still have the outdated module names in the code. So I'm just quickly running through the code. Roverbot sup, okay, that's fine. Car is that car.erlang? Yes. And what roverbot supervisor does is it starts car using start link. It's fine. It looks fine. Suppose you guys don't want to just hear me talk, you also want to see what I'm up to. I already closed and throw these things away, they're not needed anymore. But handle call, yeah, that's fine, they're chained sort of behind each other. But still love some feedback from Erlang guys. Just let me know if I'm misinterpreting this, but I think that is correct. Okay, handle cast. We've got a few handle casts. There's no wrong names. It's sort of, as far as I know, no errors in the syntax. Looks good. I don't know what's the issue. Okay. Yeah, and the robot doesn't give us any. I see the memory card has no error logs on. You know what? Let's just redeploy. So Adam's sort of quite experienced with these things, and while we were playing around in Berlin, I had a similar issue. Where stuff intermittently didn't work, and what Adam told me was that the memory cards actually make quite a difference. Once again, I didn't let you see. That's what I did. I deployed. All right. Yeah. So the memory cards apparently have different. Well, not apparently, I know they're different qualities, different speeds, different whatevers. But certain types of memory card, apparently for embedded stuff, just doesn't work so well. And it can lead to this sort of issue, actually. And we did change a memory card when we were in Berlin, and the problem actually stopped. So we had it several times, swapped memory cards, and then we did not have it once after that. So it seemed to be a good explanation for the problem. But in this case, I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure if I have that memory card here, the faulty one, or I borrowed Adam's. The one that worked was a borrowed memory card. So in all likelihood, Adam took that back, and I've got the not so reliably working one here. Alright, this is starting up. I'm gonna quickly you can join me. Just revisit the code, get a quick idea of what it is we want to do here. So what we want to do here is we want to ask the supervisor module what the PID of the car is, of get car, of the car module. So we're going to use get car to call that. This is my copy paste engineering. Okay. Just enter and see what happens. That's the wrong place. Okay. So I'm a mumbler, those who haven't noticed. Let's go back to the terminals. Yeah. Still waiting for a successful startup. It has gone very far, but we're missing a terminal now. Come on, guy, what's your story? So those of you who don't know, every time the serial terminal drops off like that and restarts, it's actually me pulling the plug, and due to lack of patience, and restarting it. It's interesting, you can almost notice makes sense, I guess, it's a bit more code, but there does seem to be a difference in startup time. What is going on? I really can't remember if I normally have this error. Yeah, it doesn't. I think in the past I have seen it there. I got a message now saying, well, you guys can probably see it too. The running commentary is great, very helpful to follow the debugging thinking and unexpected twists. I'm very happy to hear that. Obviously, for the person presenting the unexpected twists. Did I touch the cable now? Yeah, the unexpected twists is not so great for the guy presenting, because it might feel embarrassing, but as I've had in my master's degree, you actually want to see the mistakes. You want to. It's actually annoying when people write blogs or articles or thesi. How would you say that? And they don't write what they did wrong, and they don't write what didn't work, because that means you must make all the mistakes again yourself. Yeah, so one of the mistakes not to make, I guess, is to find out from maybe Adam or someone, what are the brands of memory cards that's reputable and what works. But I suspect this is not a memory card issue. I suspect we have something wrong in our code, and I am not quite sure what that is at the moment. Can't show you what I'm doing. I just took out the memory card again because I'm quickly checking what I can see there. If Erlang fails to start up or it crashes, it normally drops you a nice little stack trace. I mean, nice is a strong word, but it does drop you a stack trace, and the stack trace is significantly more useful for debugging than staring at a screen that doesn't tell you anything, even though it might be cryptic at times. I'm just rewriting the memory card, redeploying in case it's the memory card. If it's not the memory card, I might need to unfortunately drop off without having had a successful having successfully running code, which is a pity. But I think debugging this with me not being fully sure of the syntax might take a while. While I actually wait for that to start up, I'm going to start doing some quick Googles and see if I can find at least some quick notes on how this is meant to work. Like how's the syntax for chaining these commands behind each other? Am I doing it correctly? But this code cannot be too wrong because some cool. Yeah, I'm gonna go with memory card. It's the least embarrassing explanation of what happened here. Alright, let's get back to where is my car. I don't know about you guys, but I do find the where is my car quite nice, tongue-in-cheek. That's what you should have called the function. Where's my car? Or dude, where's my car? Not sure how many of you guys are actually familiar with that film. Okay, so I don't know if you guys saw that, but we have had success with the thing starting up and calling where's my car, or get car, which should be dude where's my car. And that does return us a supervisor, well, a PID, a PID, and that PID is exactly what we need to actually try and get something useful out of this robot. So I am quickly, I guess I can show you guys. I'm quickly chaining some commands here. Now we want car. How do you assign things again? I don't recall so well. I think what I'm doing is roughly correct, so let's as I said, I'm not primarily a Erlang developer, but yeah, it's similar enough, except for this funny chaining business here. So alright, let's see if that works. So what we're doing, so in Elixir we just sort of pipe everything into everything else, which is quite cool. Okay, what we're doing, I what I think I'm doing, or what I'm trying to do, is assign PID to PID the value that we just received from dude where's my car, and then we are calling car forward using that PID. Boom. Alright. Let me quickly stop that and then so in Erlang, as far as I know, which is different to Elixir, we cannot reuse variable names. I keep forgetting to show you guys what I'm doing. So the stop command isn't happy. Why is that not happy? Yeah, so as I was saying, in Erlang you can't reuse variable names. And that's what's happening here. Like, oh, that stopped, but it didn't stop elegantly, like it should. Maybe I had correct. So it's car stop with PID received. Okay. Car stop with PID. Okay, let's try forward again. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to try my magic camera. So you guys will see this wheel right here is standing still. This mess of wires here, I'm not exactly sure to which where it's connected to, but I'm pretty sure this is a hardware issue, a wire not making like contact, or could be these pins that are wrong. But actually just now we can call them one by one. I'd love to know what's going wrong in this why did it break? Why did it break? Think, right? Okay, you guys can't see, but I'm restarting the robot. I should actually have copied the stack trace now. Yeah. Because that stack trace would be very useful. Might still be lying on the device somewhere. Okay guys, so the deal is I'm trying to start this up again, and once it's started up I'm gonna throw the motor forward. Yeah, thanks for the messages, dude. It's really nice to have actually some interaction from the people watching. I can't see your name, but thank you. So, where was I? I got distracted now. Alright, so I'm going to get this thing to run. Once again, and show you on the camera so you can see. As I said, this guy here is not happy. There's, I don't know, a wire loose, or remember I was talking about the different pins you can use on SPI 1. So SPI 1, I don't know if you guys know, This is this guy here. It's got 12 pins, and yeah, I might have unplugged, like might have plugged it in incorrectly. So my suspicion is this guy who is not turning is probably SPI 1, and I'm just flipping the wrong pin. Anyway, long story short, I'm going to get the robot to run, hopefully. Yep. There we go. So I can feel the direction, you guys. I guess I don't know if you can really see the direction. It's a bit fast, but I'm feeling it, and they are all going in the same direction. And what I'm also going to What I'm also going to do is I'm going to try stop it again. I'll show you the command before I do it. I'm just going to call car stop with the PID. We already assigned the PID to a variable here, so yeah. Yeah, so I copied, while you guys weren't looking, that command that I just showed you. I'm going back to the terminal and pasting that. I'm hitting enter. Boom. I'm saying boom as if we'd had a successful stop, but what we've actually had, once again, as I told you, or as we had before, is a horribly unsuccessful stop. I don't know what the story is there, but I'm gonna figure it out. Alright. Yeah, I think that's roughly successful, or sort of successful-ish today. Let me quickly get myself out of the screen here. Alright, guys. It was so much fun once again to play around with these things. I will get my Erlang knowledge up and running and better as time goes along and as this project goes along. We're also busy with the Elixir project. We're doing some Elixir code on the Chris board as well. They'll probably do a bit better, but yeah, thanks a lot. The plan for me forward, I guess, is to go and debug this stuff. I'm gonna get myself a local access point so that I can have a bit more trust in what's going on in the IP configurations. The plan today was to get the thing running, but to issue remote Erlang commands, remote messages, and run, like I would actually have run this from my PC. I did run it from my PC, but it's a bit cheating going over serial cable. I wanted to show you how you can actually basically cluster these nodes and send from a proper remote node actually Erlang messages to the device and get it to run, get it to do what you want. What we did in Berlin actually is we had a second Chris board. We had that connected to a accelerometer that took the user input basically. And we actually used that as a remote control for this car. It was really cool. It was quite exciting to get that working in a fairly short amount of time. So I wanted to mimic that today for you guys. We couldn't get that far, but yeah, it leaves us something to do. I want to show you next time, perhaps get that messaging working, get the remote control working. Oh, basically get the control from my computer working, maybe mock a controller. I could maybe bring a, like a gamepad, PlayStation type controller. And yeah, that's gonna get fun. Stay tuned. We maybe next week, maybe the week after, we'll have some internal discussions at Stritzinger and decide who's doing what. But yeah, thank you very much for joining, and have a good night, and see you again.